Well, hello and welcome to CBN News and our coverage of the State of the Union Address. Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Andros. I'm the host of the Quick Start podcast here on CBN News, and I'm joined today by CBN Chief Political Analyst David Brody and CBN Senior White House Correspondent Kelly Wright. Gentlemen, welcome to another State of the Union.
Here we go again. Hello, gentlemen.
It's a big night, a very big night for the President of the United States. Welcome.
It certainly is. And the theme tonight, guys, America at 250, and strong, prosperous, and respected is what the theme of the speech is going to be. So we're going to talk about here leading up to it here. We got a little bit, what time, Dana, what time is it supposed to start exactly? Or
9:01.
9:01:30. So you got about 20 minutes or so here before this starts. So we're going to talk to you about what you can expect to see tonight. Obviously, the economy, it's going to be a big thing that President Trump wants to change the narrative on some of the talking points going around about the economy and how there's problems. He's going to want to change the narrative on that. There's Iran. There's a whole host of things going on right now. So, gentlemen, let's dive in. What are you guys expecting to see tonight?
So this is going to be the beginning of the midterms, and the president will set forth an agenda to talk about the positivity of his economic plan and his affordability plan. He will introduce that and may even provide some new policy that will be coming out. That new policy will reflect on how more Americans can be helped. The American people are still feeling some of the pain, if you will, of a tough economy. The president will state his case that he inherited this economy from Joe Biden and that he is now turning it around. It takes time to move this ship around, but inflation has come down to 2.4%. He will probably address the jobs number, talking about give it time. That will come into place once the actual start of the big, beautiful bill goes into full play. So look for the president to be able to focus on that. And of course, we'll talk about other matters in terms of our foreign and domestic policies with regard to what's happening in Iran as well.
David?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. First of all, Dan, I don't want you to think I'm insulting you when I say it's the economy, stupid. Just to be clear, I am not calling you stupid, but we've heard that before from James Carville back in the 90s, obviously, with Bill Clinton. And that's exactly what will happen tonight, as Kelly has just finally laid out. So, look, the grocery prices still up about 3%. Home prices up about 3%. You can go down the list. The gas prices, though, down 10%. So it's a mixed bag. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. The president will have a positive bag of tricks tonight. I say tricks, so he won't call them tricks, but he'll have a lot up his sleeve that he's going to reveal this evening. You know, what I look for at State of the Unions, and to me, what's the best part of the moments. You know, the moments that we don't know exactly are coming. One moment we know is definitely coming. The USA men's hockey team in the house tonight. That is going to be a moment. Erica Kirk is a guest of the president tonight. That will be a moment. There's another woman who was basically hidden from her parents. The school went ahead with a transitioning aspect to her life as it relates to hormone blockers and puberty blockers and all that. So anyhow, President Trump has invited her as a guest as well. And I'll get her name here. I have it. Believe me, I have all my notes here. Here it is. It's I'm sorry. I should know her name.
While he's looking for that, he'll also
have
Claire Lai here as well tonight. She is the daughter of Jimmy Lai, who is, of course, in occupation from the Chinese Communist Party. And the president is taking note of that. A lot of people, one thing that David is talking about the guests that are coming in, this is going to be a night where notable stories that are stories of optimism and hope for America's 250th are going to come into play. One thing that we have not discussed, and we'll see that tonight, is that about 71 or more Democrats will not be in the House. They are abdicating their responsibility to be there, to show decorum, to show respect for the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. They have opted to go to their own State of the Union party, if you will, State of the Swamp or something that they're calling it. But it's indicative of the fact that this divide that we have between Democrats and Republicans continues to grow more wide. And the fact that they are not there because they disagree with the president is really unfortunate, and really shows a sign of desperation rather than hope to achieve some sort of ability to be able to talk from both sides and find a way forward for the nation, for all people. And that's unfortunate that will happen tonight. But all those seats will be filled because there are people lining up for the State of the Union. So trust me, there'll be some seats that are filled. Some of them will be by design. Some may be different people that disagree with the president. So he's up for all of that as well.
Just to circle back, it was Sage Blair. That's her name. She'll be there tonight. And the reason she's there is because President Trump is going to actually call for the basically the sex transitioning operations for minors. He's going to call for banning the sex transition for minors across the country. So that's going to be some news, I think, that's going to come out tonight. You mentioned the Democrats not being there. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, has said to Democrats that are going to be in the House tonight to tone it down. Do not bring T-shirts. Do not bring all of your paraphernalia. Let's not have the Joe Wilson, you lie moment. Let's not do that. Of course, Hakeem Jeffries said that last year, and it didn't work out too well. And we should point out this is officially the first State of the Union address. The one back in January of last year in 2025 was not officially a State of the Union, but this will be the official first one tonight.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, David, about how much shenanigans we can expect to see, because we have seen it in the past, and this is sort of the give and take here of the State of the Union. Whoever's in power is going to do their best to use this stage to kind of tout what they want to tout, and any accomplishments or achievements and agenda items that they have going on. They're going to want to put that forward. And then the opposition party, of course, is going to do their best to let it be known that not everybody is in lockstep here. But sometimes that backfires when they overstep, or when they appear to get out of line, especially when there are. One of the powerful things that the incumbent can do is, these really inspirational stories that come. I mean, like the hockey team coming, and it's appropriate for either side to do this, right? These are celebrations of America, and you want to do these things. But from a political perspective, that can frustrate the other side. So, yeah.
If I could just point out, we just saw a picture there of Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota. And I wanted to get into what you're talking about, the shenanigans that some Democrats can play. But let's also talk about what Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, has been stating to the Democrats: show up, be respectful. And for Senator Amy Klobuchar to be there from Minnesota, as you know, Minnesota has gone through some difficult times with this administration in terms of ICE, and having 2 Americans killed in Minneapolis because of confrontations that they encountered with ICE. Renee Good and Andy Preddy. So she's there. And that's my point about the Democrats choosing not to show up. She is there. She's in the room where it happens. And kudos to her for showing up, even though she has strong disagreement with the president. The beauty of this nation is that we see Hakeem Jeffries right there, with his signature smile pointing to people, and he's coming in as well. So when you see Democrats like this showing up, that speaks, I think, well of them to be able to come in and have total disagreement with the president. Let's keep in mind, we're in a partial government shutdown. Yeah. Because the Democrats and Republicans have not agreed to find a way to end it. So I just wanted to point that out, that for those Democrats who are missing out on this, they're missing out on the chance to really represent their constituents and be in the room where it happens.
That's a good point. I'm not convinced that some of these Democrats will take Hakeem Jeffries' advice tonight. We'll wait and see. Obviously, when immigration comes up and ICE comes up, that's going to be a contentious part of the State of the Union. I think you'll hear a certain, I don't want to call it disruptions. We might get disruptions, but we're going to get something from a nat sound, as we like to say in television, a nat sound standpoint. I also think when not just immigration, but there's obviously when Israel comes up, I think we're going to hear something as well on that. And let me just also say that one moment I'm anticipating greatly is when he talks about the Supreme Court decision regarding tariffs, because as we know, gentlemen, right in, as Bob Uecker would say, the front row will be the Supreme Court justices. What will President Trump do tonight? Specifically, and by the way, we're hearing Speaker Johnson in the background kind of getting the ceremonial introductions ready. The president's still slated to come in about 10 minutes or so, so we'll monitor that. But, what will he do when those Supreme Court justices are literally in the front row and, they're so stoic, right? They don't crack a smile the whole time. But that kind of makes me think of the prompter retention rate tonight for President Trump. In other words, how much will he be on prompter and how much will he be ad-libbing? I'm going 85% on prompter, but the 15% ad-lib, you wonder if he'll look at the Supreme Court justices and shake his head and do something that's an ad-lib situation and look right at them. I think that could be a moment. I'm watching for that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, there are basically two modes of Trump, and there's rally Trump, and then there's sort of more formal Trump. And you don't see formal Trump all that much. And this is one of those times that you do. And formal Trump is still far more informal than any other president, really. I mean, think about it, like a Barack Obama or George W. Bush, past presidents, when they would go, or Joe Biden, when they would go on their State of the Union, they're not ad-libbing very much at all. Like, they have a prepared speech and they are generally sticking to that thing, probably 95+%. That's not Donald Trump, but to your point, David, I don't think you're going to see as much ad lib as usual from Trump, although I think you will see some of it, and it'll be when he's most tempted to. And I think given that this speech is going to largely focus on the economy, as you guys were talking about, tariffs is a staple of his economic policy. And so, like you said, with this, I don't know if he'll be able to resist.
Well, look, I think you're right, Dan. He may not be able to resist, and I want to take you back to the moment when President Barack Obama actually spoke out against the Supreme Court.
Yes, that's
for
right.
The decision that they made with Citizens United, and that was quite a moment. And so we're likely to see the president perhaps take the bait and go for it. We just don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And by the way, we should mention in about a minute or so, we should be seeing those Supreme Court justices come down, kind of like the Price is Right, State of the Union style, come down the center aisle, if you will. One thing I think from a political standpoint that's important to point out tonight, and we may see that Supreme Court shot here any moment, is the fact that a year ago, President Trump's approval rating was at 50% when he first took over. It's now at 42%. It's down 8%. He's also cratering among independents, down 17%, or 17 points, I should say, from a year ago. So with that in mind, you wonder, where is the olive branch? And I can't believe I just said the word olive branch and President Trump in the same sentence, but I did, but I do think there needs to be some sort of, hey, I'll meet you in the middle somewhere here, and to kind of reach out to independents. The problem for President Trump is he doesn't do Bill Clinton well. When Bill Clinton said, "I feel your pain," well, President Trump doesn't do the "I feel your pain." So it's going to be interesting to watch the tone tonight, especially from the president.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Tone matters.
And I just want to. Are the Supreme Court justices coming in? That's what we're.
I'm told at 8:54, so it's 8:53.
Okay, then that should be any moment. You won't miss anything, by the way. Stay tuned with us. Buckle up here for this entire speech. We'll be back here after it as well, and make sure you drop your questions in the comments here on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like button. We would love it if CBN was broadcast to as many people as humanly possible, and you help us in the algorithm by clicking like, by making comments in the comments section. So please be active and do that.
Yeah, we're seeing the two Democratic leaders right there, Senator Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries right there talking to, it looks like Senator Dick Durbin and, again, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
All the pomp and circumstance are all coming out. Here we go. Supreme Court justices coming on in. That's
at some point.
Yeah, at some point. That's clearly not the Supreme Court
minute or so behind.
That is not how they dress. So
no.
But anyway, make sure you're hitting that like button. Comment in there often. If you have a question for David or Kelly about this here before it's supposed to start in less than 10 minutes or so.
John Roberts right there.
So
There he goes.
There we go.
There we go. Amy Coney Barrett. Boy, I tell you what, John Roberts, conservatives very disappointed with him. Obviously, they're not going to go as far as call him David Souter, but they might soon enough. And Amy Coney Barrett has been a big disappointment for conservatives as well. She's kind of I say big disappointment. Why don't we just leave the big out of the sentence and call her a somewhat of a disappointment? She's been pretty good on certain issues as it relates to conservative matters. She was good on Roe v. Wade, according to pro-life Americans, but boy, this is not exactly what conservatives had in mind with Amy Coney Barrett. She's kind of morphed a little bit into the Sandra Day O'Connor role to a degree. We'll see how that plays out in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
All right, if you're just joining us here, I see lots of you are piling in to this chat or this stream. Make sure you're hanging out here with us for the entire speech. You won't miss a thing here. And we will be back afterwards to react, and you'll get the Democratic response as well.
Yeah.
And we'll
while we're waiting, let's
Yeah.
talk about the fact that this is his first State of the Union speech as the 47th President of the United States. As David Rodney pointed out, last year was not that. What has he accomplished this past year? And he'll talk about that. I think some of the things that are notable, especially to a CBN audience, where it's a plethora of Christians who are really praying for this nation and how God leads it forward. Well, the president established the White House Faith Office and put it in the White House. He also established the Religious Liberty Commission, which is there at the White House. He also established the task force on anti-Christian bias and anti-Semitism and other factors. So that's something very important. He's opened up a lot of cabinet meetings with prayer through of course, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Scott Turner. We've seen that. We've seen Secretary of War Pete Hegseth lead prayer for the troops there at the Defense Department. So that's something that's fundamentally sound. And what happens in terms of the faith component, how you apply that to your everyday living as a man who has to think about what's happening in the world. Of course, he knows that he has been staunchly supportive of Israel. We know that he has been very strong on immigration. He may not talk about the ICE situation, but he will talk about the strength of what immigration did in terms of stopping the overflow of people coming across the border. That has ceased.
Yeah.
As far as ICE is concerned, he knows he has to work around that to get it right. And that's something he has to work on.
Baron Trump in the House tonight.
Trump and
Ivanka.
Ivanka.
By the way, on the border, 91%. That is the number of apprehensions at the U.S. border in terms of the decrease. 91% of a decrease under President Trump. That's just fascinating.
And I think part of that strategy of seeing the clips everywhere. I think there's the first lady.
Melania Trump.
But I think she's done real quickly about Melania Trump. The first lady has done a great work, as you know, this past year, particularly with helping children throughout the country, the foster child program, making sure that they don't go into homelessness, but can actually have a graduated program to take care of them when they get too old to stay under foster care. It's notable what she's done for Ukraine children as well, and actually having a direct discussion through representatives of Vladimir Putin in Russia to help reunify Ukrainian children to their Ukrainian families.
The president's cabinet about to be introduced.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And we should mention that State of the Union addresses typically run about 75 minutes. That's about an hour and 15 minutes. President Trump's last address last year, an hour and 20 minutes. My guess is it'll probably run about the same, maybe a little longer this time. Scott Bessent there as well.
It's also notable that we're seeing Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's had a busy day. He's had a busy life since coming into office. See Joe Kennedy right there. But Secretary Rubio, as you know, met with the Gang of Eight today. The Gang of Eight, of course, is a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democrats. He spoke with them on the matter dealing with Iran. And of course, Thursday, that's going to be a very important day as the president seeks to cut some sort of deal with Iran on their penchant for nuclear buildup. We'll see how that plays out. Important to note that this man has remained very busy. He's at the forefront of doing a lot
Wow.
of things to
Well,
help Israel.
Yeah, Marco Rubio, very busy. I mean, how many jobs does he have? I'm surprised he's not going to announce the president, and I don't want to be the House Sergeant at Arms
guys,
as
I want to
well.
real quickly on Marco Rubio. I mean, I think he's a guy that has performed very well in like just from a public facing standpoint. I think seems to be a guy that's really handling himself very, very well. Do you guys think politically going forward, what does that mean for him? I mean, we all know that if when Trump's term is up here, that everyone's kind of penciled in JD Vance as to but what is this Rubio situation, given that I think at least among Republicans they feel like he's done a really, really good job?
First of all, I Marco Rubio will tell you publicly that if JD Vance runs, he will not run. I believe that in the here and now. I don't necessarily believe it in a year and a half. It would not surprise me if President Trump actually endorses Marco Rubio for president. Keep your eye on that. It would not surprise me. I think Rubio, the Monroe Doctrine, the way Trump has behaved in the second term, I think it aligns a lot more with Marco Rubio than J.D. Vance. Look for that as we move past the midterms.
Yeah, David, you're right. Rubio has really made so much progress in terms of where we stand in our foreign policy. And he's been very strong in that, even with regard to Maduro and Venezuela, helping in that matter in trying to restore the Western Hemisphere and to make sure that it's that we're able to get rid of. Of course, there we have Howard Lutnick, who, of course, has come under fire for some of the things that he has, and you see him shaking the hand of the Chief Justice. He of course has come under fire for being associated in some way to Epstein. And of course, the president is standing by his man, supporting him. But this is also going to be a part of the problem tonight as well. If there are any problems to come up, that will be that there will be some victims or survivors of Epstein in the audience as well. So again, this is something that has dogged the administration. The Department of Justice has been putting out the information, but instead of putting it fully out there for all to see, it just keeps coming out slowly but surely. We see Christine Noem right there. Of course, she has come under fire for what happened in Minneapolis. And she has stood by DHS. And of course, DHS is having some issues with the partial government shutdown. People were calling for her job initially. The president stood by his people. And then behind her is the woman, the myth, the legend, Susie Wiles. That's the best way I can describe her. She is, she's the one who's really strong and has helped the president get into office for this second time. And she is the president's chief of staff and doing incredible work behind the scenes.
And she lets Trump be Trump to a degree. I mean, Corey Lewandowski was the original Let Trump Be Trump. Susie Wiles is a different version, a motherly version, if you will, of that for sure.
Hey, David, real quick, a lot of people have been joining in here in the last couple of minutes as we're getting close to start time here. Stay tuned. I'm encouraging you all to stay tuned to this stream here on CBN News YouTube channel or wherever you're watching this feed. We're going to be back after it. Myself, Dan Andros, with David Brody, Kelly Wright. We're going to be responding to what we see tonight, but make sure you are hanging out in the chat. You can put your questions in there. We'll log them down as we see them. Hopefully we can get to a few of those afterwards as well. But they're still filing in, and we are waiting for President Trump here any moment.
Well,
continue.
We also will take the Democrat response, obviously,
yes.
And that'll be Abigail Spanberger tonight, the governor of Virginia. And she's under a lot of criticism for running as a moderate and governing like a liberal. So it's an interesting choice by Democrats because that is a pile-on situation for Republicans and conservatives tonight who will go after Democrats and say, hey, they tell you one thing, but they do a completely 180 when they get into office.
What's the selection, guys, for the response? Like, what are the operatives behind the scenes thinking about? Aren't they usually trying to pick kind of an up-and-comer that they want to promote?
Yes.
Yeah,
they do try to pick that. And, of course, in picking Abigail Spanberger, it's indicative of what the Democrats are hoping to achieve in the midterms. So going with her, one, like David said, could arguably say, wait a minute, you're preaching this moderate, you're campaigning on a moderate campaign. but then you're swinging way left once you become empowered with the title. So just look for that, and what she will say tonight. We know that she is against a lot of the programs, and she's changed some things already within the Commonwealth of Virginia. And why that is so important is because Virginia was actually a place where the Department of Justice was able to conduct some of its preliminary programs in getting rid of a lot of people in terms of deportation, getting rid of a lot of hardened criminals, because the state or the Commonwealth of Virginia actually participated with DOJ in getting some of the Trinidad Aragua gangs out of Virginia. And now Abigail Spanberger, as governor, has changed all of that and making it more resistant to local law enforcement working together with DOJ and ICE and the FBI. So there's some problems with that in terms of having some continuity in how you process this.
I know we've had a lot of folks come into the chat since we first got on. So just to be clear, we saw the Trump box there, if you will, with Melania and everybody, but Erica Kirk will be
Mr.
in there
Speaker,
too. Here we go.
The President of the United States.
There you have it. President Trump making his way in.
With the signature red tie.
We're going to see any Democrats shake his hand. In the past, it's usually been bipartisan with the president coming in. You'll see both parties shaking hands. But in recent years, that's been a little...
It's a good question.
more contentious of a little moment here.
You think you will, typically, though. There's Tim Burchett.
I think he would. I mean, I think President Trump absolutely would, but I'm just wondering, because we have these Democrats already trying to stage a different event and those sorts of things.
Dan, this has been the big mistake by Democrats all along, and it started in Trump's first term. They could have had, he's the art of the deal guy. They could have had deal after deal with this guy, but they decided to go into Trump derangement syndrome, and they've decided to go the opposite direction. But they could have had plenty of deals with him. He's not a Republican. Donald Trump, let's be clear, is not a Republican. He runs as a Republican, but he's a Trump-publican. And so it's important to understand that he's a deal guy, and he doesn't care what side of the aisle you're on. He wants common sense, and he wants to just somehow moderate to the point where if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. He's a business guy at heart.
As President Trump makes his way in, just a reminder, we're going to carry the whole speech here, so buckle up. President Trump did promise that this was going to be, I think he said, the longest one that he's done so far. And as David mentioned, we're going to have some guests here. We're going to have Erica Kirk, some members of the Team USA men's hockey team. The women's team declined due to a scheduling conflict. Of course, there was that whole kerfuffle about the joke that President Trump made on the phone call, which a lot of people were just saying was kind of fake outrage, overblown, that sort of a thing. So there's always a controversy online, no matter what President Trump says, it seems.
Lurking, I don't want to say lurking, that's not a good word, but but behind President Trump is Senator John Thune, of course, the majority leader. And
I'm so glad you cleaned that up and saying lurking.
There's a lot of controversy, though, with Senator Thune, the majority leader.
There's a sign.
Look at this.
Did you see that sign?
I'm sorry, that's Kavanaugh.
Did you guys see that sign back there?
What's that, Dan?
There was a sign in there that said, black people aren't apes. That's what it said there. What in the world is that referring to?
Well, that's the meme.
The meme.
It's,
oh, goodness.
That's the meme.
It's the meme that he put out.
That's right.
And it showed, which was very disparaging. And the president, he said that he didn't want to apologize for it because he didn't see any reason to apologize for it. But yeah, it showed Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as apes, and
he said he didn't see that
king of the jungle. He says he didn't see that part.
Yeah, it was like a clip. There was a clip that was shared, and then it was like at the end of the clip. It wasn't like the main thing in the clip, but it was there. So, but anyway, yeah, that sign's there. So the contention is there. And here we go. And don't forget, if you have throughout this speech here, we'll be in the chat here as much as we can. So Feel free to put your questions in there. We'll log as many as we can. We'll try to get to them after the fact. We can try to respond as well in the chat, as we'll be surely taking notes as well on everything that we're hearing. But we'd love to hear your perspectives and what you're thinking as you see this. And again, for David and Kelly, leave your questions in there, and we'd love to answer them, as many of them as we can. And again, keep hitting the like button on there if you're just joining us. This really helps us and get seen by more people, and spread the word about CBN. Like this video, hit that like button, just keep hitting it, and that will help the algorithm. Make a comment if you've got one, even if you want to just say hello and where you're from. Do that. We'd love to see where you're all watching from, but that helps us as well.
This part always cracks me up, where they give him a standing ovation, and then Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, will introduce him, and then they'll give him another standing ovation. It's like, can we just? I'd like to get to bed by about 11 p.m. Eastern, so maybe they can cut that, but they're not going to do that.
How much do you think? I mean, President Trump is a guy. I mean, look, he was in entertainment before. He went into politics. He loves this kind of stuff.
He's soaking this up. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Members
not
of
that he
Congress
needs any
have the
more
high
for the
privilege
ego.
and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Buckle up. We'll be back here on the flip side afterwards. Again, leave us your comments and your questions in the chat, and we will see you on the other side of the speech.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's really an honor. Speaker Johnson, Vice President Vance, First Lady of the United States. Second Lady of the United States. Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before. Less than 5 months from now, our country will celebrate an epic milestone in American history, the 250th anniversary of our glorious American independence. This July 4th, we will mark 2.5 centuries of liberty and triumph, progress and freedom in the most incredible and exceptional nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. And you've seen nothing yet. We're going to do better and better and better. This is the golden age of America. When I last spoke in this chamber 12 months ago, I had just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide open border, horrendous recruitment for military and police, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world. But tonight, after just 1 year, I can say with dignity and pride that we have achieved a transformation like no one has ever seen before, and a turnaround for the ages. It is indeed a turnaround for the ages. And we will never go back to where we were just a very short time ago. We're not going back. Today, our border is secure. Thank you. Today, our border is secure. Our spirit is restored. Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before. And our enemies are scared. Our military and police are stacked. And America is respected again, perhaps like never before. After 4 years in which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far. In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States. But we will always allow people to come in legally, people that will love our country and will work hard to maintain our country. The flow of deadly fentanyl across our border is down by a record 56% in 1 year. And last year, the murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. This is the biggest decline, think of it, in recorded history, the lowest number in over 125 years, year 1900. In fact, substantially before my wonderful father, I had a wonderful father, Fred, before he was born, substantially before he was born. That's a long time ago. He wouldn't like me to say that, but that's a long time ago. The Biden administration and its allies in Congress gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. But in 12 months, my administration has driven core inflation down to the lowest level in more than 5 years. And in the last 3 months of 2025, it was down to 1.7%. Gasoline, which reached a peak of over $6 a gallon in some states under my predecessor, it was quite honestly a disaster, is now below $2.30 a gallon in most states, and in some places, $1.99 a gallon. And when I visited the great state of Iowa just a few weeks ago, I even saw $1.85 a gallon for gasoline. Mortgage rates are the lowest in 4 years and falling fast, and the annual cost of a typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 just since I took office. 1 year. And low interest rates will solve the Biden-created housing problem while at the same time protecting the values of those people who already own a house that really feel rich for the first time in their lives. We want to protect those values. We want to keep those values up. We're going to do both. And we are going to keep it that way. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election. Think of that, 1 year. Boosting pensions, 401ks, and retirement accounts for the millions and millions of Americans. They're all gaining. Everybody's up, way up In 4 long years, the last administration got less than $1 trillion in new investment in the United States. And when I say less, substantially less. In 12 months, I secured commitments for more than $18 trillion pouring in from all over the globe. Think of it, much less than $1 trillion for 4 years versus much more than $18 trillion for 1 year. What a difference a president makes. A short time ago, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, the hottest. As thousands of new businesses are forming in factories, plants, and laboratories are being built, we have added 70,000 new construction jobs in just a very short period of time. It's getting bigger and bigger and stronger. Nobody can believe what they're watching. American oil production is up by more than 600,000 barrels a day, and we just received from our new friend and partner, Venezuela, more than 80 million barrels of oil. American natural gas production is at an all-time high because I kept my promise to drill, baby, drill. More Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. Think about that. Any time in the history of our country, more working today. And 100% of all jobs created under my administration have been in the private sector. We ended DEI in America. We cut a record number of job-killing regulations, and in 1 year we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record, off of food stamps. And for all of these reasons, I say tonight, members of Congress, the state of our union is strong. Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in. Ladies. That's the first time I've ever seen them get up. And actually, not all of them did get up. But they beat a fantastic Canadian team in overtime, as everybody saw, as did the American women who will soon be coming to the White House. They were in the Oval Office before, and I just want to say a second very big congratulations to Team USA. But I have to say that, and I told them this, and we took a vote of the team. I said, anybody votes no, I'm not doing it. So they stood there, and they weren't about to say no, because I've never seen a goaltender play as well as goalie Connor Hellebuck. Think of it, 46 shots on goal, and I asked him, the one shot, the one where you put your stick in the back and it hit the neck of your stick and bounced off, do you practice that, or was that a little lucky? He refused to answer that question. But I just want to tell you that the members of this great hockey squad will be very happy to hear, based on their vote and my vote, and in this case my vote was more important, that I will soon be presenting Connor with our highest civilian honor, which we will be given, and which has been given to many athletes over the years. But when I say many, not too many, like 12, it's called the highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Great athletes have gotten that, very great, the best, and I thought he deserved it. And I did take a vote, every single one of them. I said, I'm not giving it if anybody goes no, and every single one of them rapidly put up their hand. So I want to thank you. Well, what a special job you did. What special champions you are. Thank you very much. I'm also pleased to say that the next time the Olympic torch is lit, it will be here in America for the 2028 Olympics, and it's the summer version right in Los Angeles. We're going to do a good job in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is going to be safe, just like Washington, D.C. is now one of the safest cities in the country. And this year, and I must say I got them both. I got them in my first term, And I was disappointed because I didn't think I'd be the president when this happened. But strange things took place. And now I've got them because I got the Olympics and I got the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And I wanted to claim the 250th, but I didn't get away with that one. I couldn't claim that one for myself. But we're getting the World Cup, so we have the World Cup and the Olympics coming, and that is exciting news. So this will be a year to celebrate our country and the heroes who have kept it free. Men like Buddy Taggart. At age 17, Buddy volunteered to defend America in World War II, serving in the Pacific under the great General Douglas MacArthur. He fought bravely in the famous Battle of Manila, worked so hard. He was badly wounded and almost killed by enemy machine guns in Luzon. And 81 years ago this month, he liberated the largest internment camp in the Philippines, one of the largest anywhere in the world. But he earned many honors, including a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, came home, started a family, and tonight he is in the gallery looking forward to July 4th, 2026, his 100th birthday. So, Buddy, you're a brave man, and we salute you. Even in times of challenge, setback, and immense heartache, the spirit of 1776 has always shone through very brightly. It was July 4th of last year when floodwaters tore through a girls' summer camp in Central Texas, one of the worst things I've ever seen. I was there, rising 26 feet in the matter of minutes, tragically claiming many, many lives. You all remember that one. As the waters threatened to sweep her away, 11-year-old Millie Kate McClelland closed her eyes and prayed to God. She thought she was going to die. Those prayers were answered when Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin descended from a helicopter above. Nobody knew where he came from. It was Scott's first ever rescue mission, a young guy, but very brave, very, very top, always top in his class. And he lifted not just Millie Kate, but 164 others to safety. People watched Scott from a distance, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The winds were blowing, the rain was pouring, everything was going, and that rapid water, nobody's ever seen anything like it. They said, wow, that's something. Tonight, Scott and Millie Kate are here together, reunited for the very first time. Thank you, Scott, Millie Kate. And Petty Officer Ruskin, I'm pleased to inform you that I am now awarding you the Legion of Merit for extraordinary heroism, which is what it was, extraordinary heroism. Thank you. And I'd like to have the military aide to please come down and take care of the service. Military aid, thank you very much. Take care of that very important service. Thank you very much. From 1776 to today, every generation of Americans has stepped forward to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're really doing it for the next generation. But now it's our turn. Together we're building a nation where every child has the chance to reach higher and go further, where government answers to the people, not the powerful, and where the interests of hardworking American citizens are always our first and ultimate concern. That is the debt we owe to the heroes who came before us, and that is the promise we must keep to America for our 250th year. Last year, I urged this Congress to begin the mission by passing the largest tax cuts in American history, and our Republican majorities delivered so beautifully. Thank you, Republicans. All Democrats, every single one of them, voted against these really important and very necessary massive tax cuts. They wanted large-scale tax increases to hurt the people instead. But we held strong, and with the great, big, beautiful bill, we gave you no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we also made interest on auto loans tax deductible the first time, but only if the car is made in America. Recently in Pennsylvania, I met Megan Hemhauser, a devoted mom who's homeschools her children, beautiful, 2 children, during the day while waiting tables at night as her husband works overtime operating very heavy equipment. Megan is here this evening, and she's happy to tell you that she is so much richer because with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and our expanded child tax credit done again by Republicans, Megan and her husband will take home more than $5,000 extra just for the year, cutting her tax bill in more than half. Megan, please stand up. We're fighting for you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. We're fighting for you, Megan. Under our bill, parents like Megan can also activate their children's brand new Trump accounts. And I didn't name it. I did not name that. Nobody believes me, but I did not name it. It was named by a very tall man sitting right there in the third row. Nice man, a good man. Tax-free investment accounts for every American child. This is something that's so special and has taken off and gone through the roof. Millions will be pre-funded courtesy of the U.S. Treasury and private individuals like Michael and Susan Dell, who have donated $6.25 billion to fund the Trump accounts for 25 million American children. They're great people. When I asked Michael Dell, how do you make all that money? He said, well, I just sat on my dorm in school and I made computers, and I'd sell them to people. And I just kept selling and selling and selling, and pretty amazing story. That's called the American dream. He sold a lot of computers, a lot of those laptops, so I congratulate him on that, but I really thank him and Susan, as well as others like Brad Gerstner, a very tremendous guy. He was behind it right from the beginning. Brad Gerstner, thank you, Brad. So with modest additional contributions, these young people's accounts could grow to over $100,000 or more by the time they turn 18. Think of it, how much money is that for somebody that started with nothing? Over 100,000, could be much more than that. To make this investment in our children's future, go to trumpaccounts.gov, trumpaccounts.gov. And a lot of people are doing it. It's setting every record in the book. It's popular. They knew what it was going to take. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the people that got it started. And now it's just taken off. One of the primary reasons for our country's stunning economic turnaround, the biggest in history, where the Dow Jones broke 50,000 4 years ahead of schedule, and the S&P hit 7,000, where it wasn't supposed to do it for many years, were tariffs. I used these tariffs, took in hundreds of billions of dollars to make great deals for our country, both economically and on a national security basis. Everything was working well. Countries that were ripping us off for decades are now paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. They were ripping us so badly, you all know that. Everybody knows it. Even the Democrats know it. They just don't want to say it. And yet these countries are now happy, and so are we. We made deals. The deals are all done. And they're happy. They're not making money like they used to, but we're making a lot of money. There was no inflation, tremendous growth, and the big story was how Donald Trump called the economy correctly, and 22 Nobel Prize winners in economics didn't. They got it totally wrong. They got it really wrong. And then just 4 days ago, an unfortunate ruling from the United States Supreme Court. It just came down. It came down. Very unfortunate ruling. But the good news is that almost all countries and corporations want to keep the deal that they already made, right, Scott? Knowing that the legal power that I, as president, have to make a new deal could be far worse for them, and therefore they will continue to work along the same successful path that we had negotiated before the Supreme Court's unfortunate involvement. So despite the disappointing ruling, these powerful, country-saving, it's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in, peace-protecting. Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time. They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time-tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love. Right? Moving forward, factories, jobs, investment, and trillions of dollars will continue pouring into the United States of America because we finally have a president who puts America first. I put America first. I love America. For decades before I came along, we had the exact opposite. From trade to healthcare, from energy to immigration, everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly used the word affordability, a word they just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward. The price of eggs is down 60%, Madam Secretary, thank you. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than when I took office by a lot. And even beef, which was very high, is starting to come down significantly. Just hold on a little while, we're getting it down. And soon you will see numbers that few people would think were possible to achieve just a short time ago. Nobody can believe when they see the kind of numbers, and especially energy, when they see energy going down to numbers like that, they cannot believe it. It's like another big tax cut. I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing cost of health care caused by you. Since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act, sometimes referred to as Obamacare, big insurance companies have gotten rich. It was meant for the insurance companies, not for the people. With our government giving them hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year as their stock prices soared 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, and even 1,700%, like nothing else. That's why I introduced the great health care plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies and instead give that money directly to the people so they can buy their own health care, which will be better health care at a much lower cost. In addition, my plan requires maximum price transparency. That's a big deal. Sounds so simple, so big. And I did that in my first term, and the Democrats immediately terminated it with full knowledge that they were doing a very bad thing for the people. Costs were going to go way up, and that's what happened, and now I'm bringing them way down on health care and everything else. I'm also ending the wildly inflated cost of prescription drugs like has never happened before. Other presidents tried to do it, but they never could. They tried. Most didn't try, actually. But they tried. They said they tried. They couldn't do it. They didn't even come close. They were all talk and no action, but I got it done. Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs. Anywhere, the lowest price. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, But strange things happen. I took prescription drugs, a very big part of healthcare, from the highest price in the entire world to the lowest. That's a big achievement. The result is price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600% and more, all available right now at a new website called TrumpRx.gov. And I didn't name that one either, by the way. And here tonight is the very first customer ever to get that big discount, and it is big, Catherine Rayner. For 5 years, she and her husband have struggled with infertility, and they turned to IVF. One drug has been costing Catherine $4,000 to purchase, but a few weeks ago, she logged onto the TrumpRx website and got that same drug that cost $4,000, got it for under $500. A reduction of much more, actually, than $3,500. Catherine, we are all praying for you, and you're going to be a great mom. So now I'm calling on Congress to codify my most favored nation program into law. Now, the one thing, I'm not sure it matters because it's going to be very hard for somebody that comes along after me to say, let's raise drug prices by 700 or 800%. But John and Mike, if you don't mind, codify it anyway. They may do it. Codify it anyway. Thank you. Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is home ownership. With us tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of two from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Rachel, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon. We're also working to make it easier for Americans to save for retirement. And under this administration, we will always protect Social Security and Medicare. They are not protecting it for our seniors. We will always protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah. Delilah Colden was only 5 years old in June 2024 when a 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car traveling at 60 miles an hour or more. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians in California. Doctors said Delilah would never be able to walk or talk, have a good life. She wouldn't even be able to eat again. But against all odds, she is now in the first grade learning to walk. And she's here this evening with her dad, Marcus, a fantastic man. Delilah, please, you are a great inspiration. Please stand up. Thank you, Delilah. Many, if not most, illegal aliens do not speak English and cannot read even the most basic road signs as to direction, speed, danger, or location. That's why tonight I'm calling on Congress to pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens. And yesterday, as you probably saw at the White House, I hosted a ceremony with Americans who lost their treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration. People came into our country, how we allowed this to happen with our open borders. These are the angel moms and families that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored. It was terrible. Hard to believe, actually. In 2023, a 16-year-old high school cheerleader named Elizabeth Medina was supposed to perform in her town's Christmas parade, but she never arrived. Her mother, Jacqueline, went home to look for her, and she found her lying dead in a bathtub, bleeding profusely after being stabbed 25 times. Elizabeth's killer was a previously arrested illegal alien who had broken in and brutally extinguished the brightest light in her family's life, violently and viciously. Her heartbroken mother is in the gallery to remind everyone in this chamber exactly why we are deporting illegal alien criminals to our country at record numbers, and we're getting them the hell out of here fast. We don't want them. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Thank you. We can never forget that many in this room not only allowed the border invasion to happen before I got involved, but indeed they would do it all over again if they ever had the chance. If they ever got elected, they would open up those borders to some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world. The only thing standing between Americans and a wide open border right now is President Donald J. Trump and our great Republican patriots in Congress. Thank you. Thank you. As we speak, Democrats in this chamber have cut off all funding for the Department of Homeland Security. It's all cut off. It's all cut off. They have instituted another Democrat shutdown, the first one costing us 2 points on GDP. 2 points we lost on GDP, which probably made them quite happy, actually. Now they have closed the agency responsible for protecting Americans from terrorists and murderers. Tonight I'm demanding the full and immediate restoration of all funding for the border security, homeland security of the United States, and also for helping people clean up their snow. We have no money because of the Democrats, and it would be nice, we'd love to give you a hand at cleaning it up, but you gave no money. Nobody's getting paid. It's a shame. So you have to think about it. We have, in case you didn't know, a pretty large snowstorm out there. One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. And no more crooked mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. None. And this should be an easy one. And by the way, it's polling at 89%, including Democrats. 89%. And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens. And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things, you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated, and their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John. And here is one more opportunity to show common sense in government. In the gallery tonight are Sage Blair and her mother, Michelle. In 2021, Sage was 14 when school officials in Virginia sought to socially transition her to a new gender, treating her as a boy and hiding it from her parents. Hard to believe, isn't it? Before long, a confused Sage ran away from home after she was found in a horrific situation in Maryland A left-wing judge refused to return Sage to her parents because they did not immediately state that their daughter was their son. Sage was thrown into an all-boys state home and suffered terribly for a long time. But today, all of that is behind them because Sage is a proud and wonderful young woman with a full-ride scholarship to Liberty University. Sage and Michelle, please stand up. And thank you for your great bravery. And who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy. Amazing. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we? No one cares more about protecting America's youth than our wonderful First Lady, now a movie star. She's a movie star. Can you believe it? Who would have believed that? Over the past year, she has had an incredible impact championing AI legislation, advancing a landmark executive order on foster care, and helping secure $30 million to launch the Melania Trump Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. It's a tremendous, really a tremendous thing that happened and had a lot of bipartisan support. She gets much better bipartisan support than I do. I get none. She gets a lot. Someday you're going to have to tell me how you did that. And students and educators in every state have joined the First Lady's efforts in the presidential AI challenge, keeping America's next generation positioned to succeed and strongly succeed in the future. Tonight, we welcome two young people whose lives reflect the First Lady's impact, Sierra Burns and Everest Nevermont. Thank you both, and Melania, thank you. I know how hard you worked on it. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand. Thank you, Erica. Been through a lot. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind. We love religion, and we love bringing it back, and it's coming back at levels that nobody actually thought possible. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Above all, unleashing America's promise requires keeping our communities safe. We have made incredible strides, yet dangerous repeat offenders continue to be released by pro-crime Democrat politicians again and again. We are honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zarutska. In 2022, she and her beautiful daughter, so beautiful, what a beautiful young woman, Irina, fled war-torn Ukraine to live with relatives near Charlotte, North Carolina. And by the way, what's going on with Charlotte? Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail, stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget. There were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there. Starting last summer, I deployed our National Guard and federal law enforcement to restore law and order to our most dangerous cities, including Memphis, Tennessee, big success, New Orleans, Louisiana, big success, and our nation's capital itself, Washington, D.C., where we have almost no crime anymore in Washington, D.C. How did that happen? In fact, crime in Washington is now at the lowest level ever recorded, and murders in D.C. this January were down close to 100% from a year ago. They don't like to hear that. One of the sick people, one of the brave service members who helped achieve this stunning turnaround was 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. After a 4-month deployment, she voluntarily extended her service, and her rank was going to be lifted. She was doing so well. They were so proud of her. But the very next day, she was on patrol near the White House when she was ambushed and shot in the head by a terrorist monster from Afghanistan. Shouldn't have been in our country. And all because she wore the uniform of our nation. She was shot. He traveled here because he didn't like people wearing our uniform. He was sick and deranged. Shouldn't have been in our country. Sarah Beckstrom died in order to defend our capital, and we are honored to be joined by her wonderful parents, Gary and Evalie. Your daughter was a true American patriot, and she will be greatly missed. She was a great person. I saw reports on her. They've never seen anything like her. So sorry. Thank you very much. A great young lady. I saw reports that were like, perfect. She was perfect. Serving alongside Sarah that day was Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf. The terrorist shot Andrew in the head, and no one thought he could possibly make it. The two of them, Sarah and Andrew, both shot violently in the head. Neither was expected to make it. They weren't even given a chance, except his wonderful mother, named Melody, who I spoke to the same night, and she was so positive. The doctors thought that Andrew was gone, but his mother said, no, Mr. President, Andrew will be fine. He's going to make it. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, he was given almost no chance. She said, I have no doubt, sir, he's going to be okay. This was a conversation that I had with her that night, with her son laying helplessly in bed, blood all over. Everybody is praying, she said, sir, he will be okay. The doctors didn't understand what she was saying, and after looking at the results of the damage done, neither did I. She was so strong and conclusive that even Andrew's great father felt she didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. But she turned out to be right. Right, Melanie? She turned out to be right. Amazing, actually. I said, where does this woman come from? She's the most positive person I've ever met. With God's help, Andrew has battled back from the edge of death, and we're talking about the edge of death, on his way to a miraculous recovery. He's got a little work to do, but he's doing great. Nice to see you. He's a good-looking guy. Nice to see you. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you very much. So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late, great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. Love you. We're proudly restoring safety for Americans at home, and we are also restoring security for Americans abroad. Our country has never been stronger. My first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India. Would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said the Prime Minister of Pakistan would have died if it were not for my involvement. Kosovo and Serbia, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and of course the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for your help. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jared. And I also want to thank the man they report to, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. People don't like you. You know, Marco got 100% of the votes when he was in confirmation. I think our next one was about 54%. And some of the Democrats are now saying, I can't believe we approved that guy. And he said it's an honor that they feel that way, right, Marco? You have done a great job, great Secretary of State. I think he'll go down as the best ever. Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that? Nobody thought it was possible. Nobody thought that was possible. Both living and dead. And those parents who had a dead son, their boy, they'd always tell me their boy, they wanted him as much as though he were living. That was an amazing period of time. And they came back, and when we got all of the living hostages back, and many, many before them, but I always said those last 20 are going to be very tough, but we got many, many more, hundreds. But I said those last 20 are going to be tough. We got them back. But we only got back 14 or 15 of the dead, of the 28. And believe it or not, Hamas worked along with Israel, and they dug and they dug and they dug. It's a tough thing to do, going through bodies all over, passing up 100 bodies sometimes for each one that they found. Tough job. And they finally got it back to 27. And then Steve and Jared, they got it back to 28. They found all 28. Nobody thought that was possible, but we did it. And I remember the family of the 28th. They were so grieved, but they were so happy as it's possible to be. They had their boy back. The mother said, "Sir, we have our boy back." What a period of time that was, but we got them all back. So thank you both very much. Great job. And we're working very hard to end the 9th war, the killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers are dying each and every month. Think of that, 25,000 soldiers are dying a month. A war which would have never happened if I were president, would have never happened. As president, I will make peace wherever I can, but I will never hesitate to confront threats to America wherever we must. That's why in a breakthrough operation last June, the United States military obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil known as Operation Midnight Hammer. For decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've killed and maimed thousands of American service members and hundreds of thousands and even millions of people with what's called roadside bombs. They were the kings of the roadside bomb. And we took out Soleimani. I did that during my first term. Had a huge impact. He was the father of the roadside bomb. And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like, 32,000 protesters. 32,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue, starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called peace through strength, and it's been very, very effective. So thanks to Republicans in Congress, we're investing that record number of dollars, have no choice, in the United States Armed Forces. Also creating a lot of jobs, but we're not even doing it for that reason. Because as I said, we have more jobs, more people working today than ever before in the history of our country. And NATO countries are friends and allies. They are. They're our friends and they're our allies. Have just agreed at my very strong request to pay 5% of GDP for military defense rather than the 2%, which they weren't paying. We were paying for almost all of NATO. Now they're paying 5 as opposed to not paying 4. And getting that 5% was something which everyone said would never be done, could not happen. We got it really easily with one meeting. And big difference between 2% that's not paid. We were paying the freight of many of them. Very few were paid up. Now 5%, then they're paid. And everything we send over to Ukraine is sent through NATO, and they pay us in full. They pay us totally in full. Every branch of our armed forces is setting records for recruitment. This is so exciting. And every service member recently. And every service member recently received a warrior dividend of $1,776. You know, they put it on my desk. We got the money from tariffs and other things, a lot of money we have. We have much more money than people understand. Have to rebuild that program a little bit, but it won't take long. But we got the money, and it was $1,775, and they wanted my approval. And I said, what's the number? $1,775. I said, wait a minute. For $1 more, we can have $1,776. It's going to... I said, we're going to figure that. I never asked anybody if we could afford it. $1 more. I said, $1,776. And I said, that's good. And I'll tell you what, our military, that was 4 months ago, our military, I never see a person in the military that doesn't thank me for it, so we're honored to do it. They deserve it. And we call it 1776. It was great. And we love our military. We love our law enforcement. We love our firemen. You know, the firemen don't get mentioned enough. We love our firemen. We're also... We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere, acting to secure our national interests and defend our country from violence, drugs, terrorism, and foreign interference. For years, large swaths of territory in our region, including large parts of Mexico, really large parts of Mexico, have been controlled by murderous drug cartels. That's why I designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and I declared illicit fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And with our new military campaign, we have stopped record amounts of drugs coming into our country and virtually stopped it completely coming in by water or sea. You probably noticed that. We very seriously damaged their fishing industry also. Nobody wants to go fishing anymore. We've also taken down one of the most sinister cartel kingpins of all. You saw that yesterday. In January, elite American warriors carried out one of the most complex, spectacular feats of military competence and power in world history. No one's seen anything like it. Foreign leaders, I won't tell you who, called me and they said, very impressive, very impressive. They couldn't believe, they all watched, they saw what happened. This is a different fighting force that we had years ago when we fought to tie. You know, it's a great fighting force. I'm so proud of it. Look at Space Force. Space Force is my baby, because we did that. My baby is becoming so important. And America's armed forces overwhelmed all defenses and utterly defeated an enemy, good fighters, to end the reign of outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro and bring him to face American justice. And this was an absolutely colossal victory for the security of the United States, and it also opens up a bright new beginning for the people of Venezuela. We're working closely with the new president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, to unleash extraordinary economic gains for both of our countries and to bring new hope to those who have suffered so terribly. They really did suffer. With us tonight is Alejandro Gonzalez. She grew up in a tight-knit Venezuelan family and was especially close to her beloved Uncle Enrique, But after Enrique ran for office and opposed Maduro, he was kidnapped by Maduro's security forces and thrown into the regime's really infamous prison in Caracas. Alejandro feared she would never see her uncle again. She feared for her own life also. But since the raid, we have worked with the new leadership, and they have ordered the closure of that vile prison and released hundreds of political prisoners already, with more to come. Alejandro, I'm pleased to inform you that not only has your uncle been released, but he is here tonight. We brought him over to celebrate his freedom with you in person. Enrique, please come down. Thank you, Enrique. Have a good time. Nice to have you back, Enrique. There were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro. Really great heroes. It was very dangerous. They knew we were coming. They were all set. But the deeds of one warrior that night will live forever in the eternal chronicles of military valor. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, planned the mission and was the flight lead in the cockpit of the first helicopter. A big, beautiful, powerful helicopter. It was a massive Chinook carrying, as you can imagine, many, many American warfighters. Wearing the dog tags his wife Amy had blessed with holy water before he left. She knew it was going to be a rough one. Eric steered the Chinook under the cover of night and descended swiftly upon Maduro's heavily protected military fortress. This was a major military installation, protected by thousands of soldiers and guarded by Russian and Chinese military technology. How did that work out? Not too good. While preparing to land, enemy machine guns fired from every angle, and Eric was hit very badly in the leg and hip, one bullet after another. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces. And yet, despite the fact that the use of his legs was vital to successful helicopter flight, legs are the most important part of flying a helicopter, to deliver the many commandos who would capture and detain Maduro was the only thing Eric was thinking about. Then, even as he was gushing blood, which was flowing back down the aisle, helicopter lands at a steep angle. The machine gun stood right in front of him. They were right in front of him, 2 machine gunners who escaped the wrath of the previous planes. Eric maneuvered his helicopter with all of those lives and souls to face the enemy and let his gunners eliminate the threat. Turned the helicopter around so the gunners could take care of business, saving the lives of his fellow warriors from what could have been a catastrophic crash deep in enemy territory. Only after safely landing the helicopter with all the warriors aboard in the exact right spot, which was vital to the mission, we probably would have had to maybe cancel the mission if that didn't happen. Eric told his co-pilot, also wounded but not as gravely, to take over. I'm about ready to pass out. The success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to take the searing pain. It was unbelievable what's happened to his legs of the bullets and keep on flying and landing, and people knew what was happening. Everybody in the back of the helicopter knew because they saw the blood pouring down the aisle. Chief Warrant Officer Slover is still recovering from his serious wounds, but I'm thrilled to say that he is here tonight with his wife, Amy. Eric and Amy, come on in. So we have a surprise for Eric and Amy. In recognition of Eric's actions above and beyond the call of duty, I would now like to ask General Jonathan Braga to present Chief Warrant Officer Slover with our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Well, thank you very much, Eric and Amy. Great to get to know you. I met with them and with a lot of their fellow warriors at Fort Bragg recently. You notice the name Fort Bragg. We have it back. We brought it back. We won the First World War with it, the Second World War with it, and then they decided to change the name. So we changed it back. Everybody wanted to change back, too. And 10 of Eric's fellow warriors from that incredible night of victory will also be receiving medals at a private ceremony that will soon be held at the White House. And Eric will be there. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. That's a big one. Tonight we've celebrated many truly extraordinary American patriots, but there is one last living legend to honor before we go. He is one more heroic American aviator, Navy fighter pilot. Royce Williams served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, flying more than 220 missions. In the skies over Korea in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight. Flying through blizzard conditions, his squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes. It was his first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets to his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for over 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. But tonight, at 100 years old, this brave Navy captain is finally getting the recognition he deserves. He was a legend long before this evening. Royce, please stand up, and I will ask the First Lady of the United States to present Captain Royce Williams with his Congressional Medal of Honor. Thank you, Royce, and thank you, Eric. I've always wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I was informed I'm not allowed to give it to myself, and I wouldn't know why I'd be taking it, but if they ever open up that law, I will be there with you someday. But you know, that's our highest honor, Congressional Medal of Honor, and that's a big thing, and it's an honor to be in the same room with you. Thank you both very much, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. 250 years is a long time in the life of a nation, but in another sense, it's really a mere moment in the eye of history. Two of the gentlemen we met in the gallery this evening took their first breaths 1 century ago, 100 years before that, on July 4th, 1826, the author of the Declaration of Independence, brilliant, Thomas Jefferson, drew his last breath. Just a single long human lifespan separates the giants who declared and won our independence from the heroes who stand among us tonight. Everything our nation has done, everything we have achieved, has been the work of those few great lifetimes. In those brief chapters, Americans built this nation from 13 humble colonies into the pinnacle of human civilization and human freedom, the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful, most successful nation in all of history. Americans ventured out across the daunting and dangerous continent. We carved paths through an unforgiving wilderness, settled a boundless frontier, and tamed the beautiful but very, very dangerous Wild West. From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together, we mastered the world's mightiest industries and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies. And we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel. And then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We wired the globe with our ingenuity. We captivated the planet with American culture. And now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country and who still carry the hopes and freedoms on all of humanity's backs. For years they were forgotten, betrayed, and cast aside. But that great betrayal is over, and they will never be forgotten again. Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
All right, there you have it. The State of the Union address has wrapped up. It was a long one as promised, but we saw the overarching message, essentially that America is winning again. President Trump went through his economic agenda and his claims. Also talked a lot about immigration and border security, law and order, foreign policy, military. So many areas to cover here, guys. David and Kelly... CBN's David Brody, CBN's Kelly Wright here with us again. Gentlemen, let's just dive right in here because we only have a few minutes before the Democratic response. Your thoughts on this speech?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it started with the economy as we expected. It ended lofty. In the middle, it got messy, very messy, actually. And you know, I must say, and why did it get messy? We can go through all of that. We don't have much time. But immigration, just some of the stuff about Sage Blair as well. It got a little bit off the rails. And you know, President Trump calling the Democrats crazy. These people are crazy. Here's the thing. I must tell you, and Kelly, I'd be curious to get your thoughts because you've been covering State of the Union for a long time like I have. You know, to me, it's remarkable because I've always thought, and I think every American thinks, boy, it just looks goofy that the other side just sits there and doesn't applaud for things that just kind of make sense that aren't even partisan. But the fact that President Trump was actually calling it out tonight, I thought was intentional. The Republicans want to make the Democrats the party that is not about common sense. And I think that was part of the strategy tonight. But clearly the economy took center stage.
Kelly?
Yeah, it was a stunning moment when the president asked for people to stand. And you saw the Republicans stand and the Democrats would not. And it was really striking, but it again shows the division that's within the congressional people. I mean, they're just so divided, and the president at that point could have used some tone to try to bring them in. But I think he already knows that it's already baked in that he is not going to be very well liked or received by the Democrat Party. Getting back to the point, though, his overall State of the Union address was really sweeping. It was filled with a lot of emotion, particularly those moments of reuniting people for the first time, and then seeing what happened at the very end there with the 100-year-old Navy captain, the Navy fighter, receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor right there. But then, of course, the president, notwithstanding, talking about he'd like to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. There are a lot of people say they wish he would get off of things like that, but it was really a great moment and some great moments throughout the entire evening. But again, getting back to how he started all of this, he said, "Our nation is back, bigger, stronger, and richer than ever before. We are celebrating the 250th anniversary of our glorious country." And then, of course, he ended it with those sweeping tones as well to remind people that he believes that America's best years are ahead of it and that it can indeed be going into a golden age. But that requires a lot of work. Governing is
Yeah.
not easy, and that's what we have to see. And governing from all sides of the spectrum, the political aisle, is something that has to be achieved, where we can agree to disagree, yet still find a way to live in harmony in order to impact the lives of the American people. He talked about fentanyl being brought down. He talked about terrorism being brought down and aiming at the drug cartels, identifying them as terrorists. He talked about a lot around the world. He called out Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Jared Kushner, as well as Steve Witkoff, and the incredible work that they've been doing to try to end wars. In particular, I'm sorry, say that again. Oh, I thought you were talking to me, Dan.
No,
I'm
I think you
sorry
were just
about that.
hearing. I think you were just
I
hearing
was
feedback there. Yeah.
hearing voices in my head. That's a strange thing. But the president of the United States, I think he delivered what he set out to do. Going all the way back to this morning when White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the president of the United States will make his statements and be very bold in his agenda and his vision for America. So he did
Well,
that. And now it's up to the Democrats and his critics to decide how they will fact check the president and how they will move forward, either working
I,
with him or against him.
I would say this. There was some news made tonight, the war on fraud. The president announcing that there's going to be this effort called the war on fraud, led by the vice president. What that means exactly, no one's quite sure. We'll get more details in the coming days. But part of that exchange had to do with what he called the Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota. Reminds us that there's a large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm. You could see the visceral reaction by Ilhan Omar in the chamber
She was
tonight.
yelling. Was that her that was yelling at
Yes.
that? Somebody was yelling
Yes.
at that time, and it looked like
It
her
was her.
and I think Talib, I think, as well.
I mean, for him to say Somali pirates, I mean that got her goat clearly. But anyhow, that was a striking moment to me as well.
It was striking, the fact that he went there and identified a people. And there are many Somali people who say that they love America and they're here to stay. And not all of the fraud that's been going on has been committed by Somali Americans. So, given that, that would cause or stir some negative response, particularly from Ilhan Omar, who is not at all enamored with the president of the United States. Um, be that as it may, there were moments where he talked about angel moms, as you talked about, David, as well as passing the Delilah law, barring any state from granting licenses to illegal aliens. That was very important. And the little 5-year-old Delilah being held by her dad, the remarkable comeback that she has had, where she was told that she would never walk again or even speak again,
Yeah.
and she's building back her strength. That's a God thing, the God situation, for her father to hold his daughter in front of the nation, in front of members of Congress, and seeing people stand to applaud her. That was quite a moment. So there
Yeah.
were moments where Democrats and Republicans stood together, most notably for the Navy captain receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor. You could see Senator Mark Kelly actually showing some emotion as he applauded him.
Yeah.
And saying something to his Republican colleague, something that I can't read lips, but it looked like it was something very much in the affirmative of thanking this man for his service during his wartime efforts in Korea.
You know, other than those standing ovations at some of the memorable moments that you're talking about, the biggest standing ovation on policy, or at least on topics, if you will, was when he brought up immigration and he said, quote, "We're here to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens." And that was literally a 1.5 or so to 2 minute standing ovation by Republicans. And that's what got President Trump frustrated, because Republicans were standing and Democrats weren't. And so to me, that's when things started to go off the rails. But what was notable there is that that was the longest standing ovation he received tonight, which is on his bread and butter topic of immigration. The good news for President Trump is, well, I shouldn't say the good news. The reality is that he doesn't need help in that area. Americans, by and large, trust him in terms of border enforcement. Interior enforcement, a different matter. But protecting American citizens and not illegal aliens coming across the border, that's low-hanging fruit for President Trump politically. He's got to convince people from an economic standpoint. And tonight he tried to do that, talking about specifically this quote here, where he talked about the price of eggs, and he went down the list about grocery prices, which I thought would be effective. And I will say this, we are expecting, Dan, I believe, out Abigail Spanberger, the governor
any moment here
of Virginia.
Yeah, she's coming up. So much was said tonight. We'll have a lot more to talk about after Governor Abigail Spanberger, the new governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, gives the Democrat response to the President of the United States State of the Union address, which, of course, was a very positive address from his standpoint. Let's go to Abigail Spanberger now.
Okay, well, here she comes.
Good evening and welcome to historic Williamsburg. We are gathered here in the chambers of the House of Burgesses. In 1705, the people of the Virginia colony gathered here to take on the extraordinary task of governing themselves. Before there was a Declaration of Independence, a Constitution, or a Bill of Rights, there were people in this room. The people who served here ultimately dreamed of what a new nation, unlike anything the world had ever seen, could be. The United States was founded on the idea that ordinary people could reject the unacceptable excesses of poor leadership, band together to demand better of their government, and create a nation that would be an example for the world. And this year, as we celebrate 250 years since America declared our independence from tyranny, I can think of no better place to speak to you as we reflect on the current state of our union. Tonight, as we watched our nation's lawmakers gather for a joint session of Congress, we did not hear the truth from our president. So let's speak plainly and honestly, and let me ask you, the American people watching at home, 3 questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? Is the president working to keep Americans safe both at home and abroad? Is the president working for you? As I campaigned for governor last year, I traveled to every corner of Virginia, and I heard the same pressing concern everywhere. Costs are too high in housing, healthcare, energy, and childcare. And I know these same conversations are being had all across this country. Because since this president took office last year, his reckless trade policies have forced American families to pay more than $1,700 each in tariff costs. Small businesses have suffered, farmers have suffered, some losing entire markets. Everyday Americans are paying the price. And even though the Supreme Court struck these tariffs down 4 days ago, the damage to us, the American people, has already been done. Meanwhile, the president is planning for new tariffs, another massive tax hike on you and your family. And Republicans in Congress, they remain unwilling to assert their constitutional authority to stop him. They're making your life harder. They're making your life more expensive. They're even making it more difficult to see a doctor. Rural health clinics in Virginia and across the country are already closing their doors thanks to the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, championed by the president and Republicans in Congress. And tonight, the president celebrated this law, the one threatening rural hospitals, stripping healthcare from millions of Americans and driving up costs in energy and housing, all while cutting food programs for hungry kids. But here in Virginia, I am working with our state legislature to lower costs and make the Commonwealth more affordable. And it's not just me. Democrats across the country are laser focused on affordability in our nation's capital and in state capitals and communities across America. In the most innovative and exceptional nation in the history of the world, Americans deserve to know that their leaders are focused on addressing the problems that keep them up at night. Problems that dictate where you live, whether you can afford to start a business or whether you have to skip a prescription in order to buy groceries. So I'll ask again, is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? We all know the answer is no. I grew up in a house of service. My mother was a nurse and my father was a career law enforcement officer. I began my career by following in my father's footsteps as a federal agent working money laundering and narcotics cases. I worked side by side with local and state police to keep our community safe and to uphold and enforce the law. Law enforcement officers across the country know that it is a unique responsibility to do the serious work of investigating crimes, comforting victims, and making arrests. It's about building trust, and that requires an abiding sense of duty and commitment to community. And yet, our president has sent poorly trained federal agents into our cities, where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. And they have done it without a warrant. They have ripped nursing mothers away from their babies. They have sent children, a little boy in a blue bunny hat, children to far-off detention centers. And they have killed American citizens in our streets. And they have done it all with their faces masked from accountability. Every minute spent sowing fear is a minute not spent investigating murders, crimes against children, or the criminals defrauding seniors of their life savings. Our president told us tonight that we are safer because these agents arrest mothers and detain children. Think about that. Our broken immigration system is something to be fixed, not an excuse for unaccountable agents to terrorize our communities. After working in law enforcement, I continued my career of service as a CIA officer, working undercover to protect the United States and our allies from global threats, terrorism, nuclear weapons, and the aggression of adversarial nations around the globe. But as the president spoke of his perceived successes tonight, he continues to cede economic power and technological strength to Russia, bow down to China, bow down to a Russian dictator, and make plans for war with Iran. Here's the truth. Over the last year, through DOJ, mass firings, and the appointment of deeply unserious people to our nation's most serious positions, our president has endangered the long and storied history of the United States of America being a force for good. So I'll ask again, is the president working to keep Americans safe, both at home and abroad? We all know the answer is no. In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. He tries to divide us. He tries to enrage us, to pit us against one another, neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes he succeeds. And so you have to ask, who benefits from his rhetoric, his policies, his actions, the short list of laws he's pushed through this Republican Congress? Somebody must be benefiting. He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of the corruption is unprecedented. There's the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms, putting his name and face on buildings all over our nation's capital. This is not what our founders envisioned, not by a long shot. So I'll ask again, is the president working for you? We all know the answer is no. But here's the special thing about America. On our 250th anniversary, we know better than any nation what is possible when ordinary citizens, like those who once dreamed right here in this room, reject the unacceptable and demand more of their government. We see it in the determination of students organizing school walkouts all across the country, whose voices are becoming so powerful that the governor of Texas seeks to silence them. We see it in the bravery of Americans in Minnesota standing up for their communities, from peacefully protesting in sub-zero temperatures to carpooling children to school so that their immigrant parents are not ripped away from them in the parking lot. As a mother of 3 school-aged daughters, I am inspired by their bravery, but I am sickened that it is necessary. And Americans across the country are taking action. They are going to the ballot box to reject this chaos. With their votes, they are writing a new story, a more hopeful story. In November, I won my election by 15 points. And we won 13 new seats in our state legislature. Because voters decided they wanted something different. Our campaign earned votes from Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everyone in between. Because they knew as citizens they could demand more, that they could vote for what they believe matters, and that they didn't need to be constrained by a party or political affiliation. This is happening across the country. New Jersey elected Mikey Sherrill as governor in a double-digit victory. Democrats flipped state legislative seats in places like Georgia, Iowa, Mississippi, and Texas. The list goes on and on. Ordinary Americans are stepping up to run in the spirit of our forefathers. They are running to demand more and to do more for their neighbors and communities. I know this story well. I first ran for office in 2018 alongside dozens of other Democrats who did the seemingly impossible, flipping 41 seats in Congress. In my case, I was the first Democrat elected in 50 years, swinging our district 17 points. Those who are stepping up now to run will win in November because Americans, you at home, know you can demand more and that we are working to lower costs. We are working to keep our communities and our country safe, and we are working for you. In his farewell address, George Washington warned us about the possibility of, quote, cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men rising to power. But he also encouraged us, all Americans, to unite in a common cause, to move this nation forward. That is our charge once more, and that is what we are seeing across the country. It is deeply American and patriotic to do so, and it is how we ensure that the state of our union remains strong, not just this year, but for the next 250 years as well, because we, the people, have the power to make change, the power to stand up for what is right, the power to demand more of our nation. May God bless the Commonwealth of Virginia, and may God bless the United States of America.
All right. And there you have it. There is the Democratic response. All right, gentlemen, it's Dan Andros here again with CBN's Kelly Wright and CBN's David Brody for a few more minutes here. Guys, hearing the response, hearing President Trump's speech, what does this tell you about what we're going to see from now until the midterms?
Well, there are a couple of things. First of all, let's be very clear what Abigail Spanberger did tonight. And I was waiting for her to say the name, and she said it. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey. This is the winning ticket that Democrats believe they will have in the midterm. What they did in those special elections, obviously, I shouldn't say the special elections, excuse me, the off-year elections in New Jersey and in Virginia, where both Mikey Sherrill positioned herself as more of a moderate and won in New Jersey. Abigail Spanberger positioned herself more as a moderate and won in Virginia. Oh, spoiler alert, she's not a moderate. She's governing like a liberal, but that's a separate issue for another day. The point is that Democrats believe this is their ticket, and that's why I was waiting for her tonight in front of the nation for her to invoke Mikey Sherrill. But she didn't just do that. She also invoked the states of Iowa and Georgia and Texas. We've heard about James Tallarico talking about time to turn Texas blue. This is the plan by the Democrats. We hear a lot about Mamdani. We hear a lot about the far left running the Democrat Party. And once again, second spoiler alert of the evening, they are. But the Democrats are going to try to position themselves as more of a moderate, centrist type party. Good luck with that. That train seems to have left the station, but that's the game plan going into the midterms. And we saw it here in the rebuttal tonight.
And to David's point, a lot of people are thinking like David, but for those who are listening to what the governor had to say, they're probably listening to her question. And the big question that the Democrats will be using between now and the midterm are those questions she asked. Is the president working to make life more affordable? Is the president working to make life safe? Is the president working to make every American prosperous? Those questions are going to be asked, and you can be sure that that will be their campaign question, and they will be giving their own answers saying that the president is not doing that. The president, as he did tonight, will set forth his agenda saying that he is doing that. So we're seeing all of this boil down to what we've been talking about for quite some time now, affordability. We've been looking at what happened in November when Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger won their power base in terms of becoming governors of New Jersey and governors of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so now we see all Democrats, as David talked about, coalescing behind this theme of affordability. The president was trying to get out ahead of that in November and started talking about it. And he's saying, we need to be more affordable and we need to let people know that we're already doing things. What's happened to the president of the United States is that he still has to deal with what's going on in foreign matters. And dealing with the foreign matters has somewhat distracted him from taking care of first things first here at home. You heard Abigail Spanberger talk about the tariffs and how she has seen how the tariffs have hurt some Americans. There are a lot of farmers who agree with that. Some of the farmers are saying, well, what happened to my soybeans that used to be purchased all the time? What's going on with my beef? I can't sell it now. So those are problems. Now, the president is hoping that he can actually bring more to the table to show that Americans are benefiting from his tariffs. The Democrats will always try to undercut that. That will be their game plan.
Yeah, and then David, how hard of a sell is that going to be? Because Trump's tariff play, I mean, if we're looking at this, is a long-term play. Yeah. And it's essentially, when he talks about bringing billions of dollars in, it's essentially a tax because you're importing, whatever is getting imported in here they're getting taxed on it, if it's coming from China or whatever. And then it's getting there. So they raise their price. Then the people getting it from China here in America, they just pass that cost on to the consumer. And so it's kind of disconnected. So when Trump says, I guess what I'm saying here is he's going to have to explain somehow, all right, hey, I'm bringing in billions of dollars in these tariffs, and the American people then are saying, okay, well, how does that benefit me exactly? I'm still just paying more for everything.
Well,
so how does he cross that bridge?
he runs the best PR agency in the world, and that PR agency is DJT. He figures out a way to do it because it's all for him about the power of positive thinking. It goes back to a pastor that he sat under, Norman Vincent Peale. I wrote a book about it called The Faith of Donald Trump. He has a way of saying, look, we're going to get it done, and we're going to think positive, and he's able to cajole and bring Americans along that way. It's been a skill of his that is very effective. Having said that, in terms of the answer to your, I guess, technical question, is that I think all this is just going to end up in court yet again. However he tries to do it, whatever he tries to do, whatever rule or mechanism that Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent and the gentlemen in the White House and the ladies in the White House come up with, it's going to end up in court. So I think that's what's going to go on. A couple quick final notes here, just from my end. Notice that the foreign policy came at the end of the speech for the most part, the last third of the speech. It wasn't as much of the speech as you might expect. Now, obviously, the economy and domestic matters typically are predominant in a State of the Union. But I felt like this one for President Trump was done even more so and on purpose. He led with the economy, and we really didn't hear about anything from a foreign policy standpoint towards, like I said, the latter third of the speech. And even then, it wasn't that much. So I think this White House understands that they've got to get back on top of domestic matters. Of course, they'll say they've been on top of it all along, but perception is reality. And I think that's part of it. And the last thing I would just simply say is that we had a State of the Union tonight on February, 24th. What day is it?
24th,
February 24th.
Yep.
It's about to be February 25th if I don't stop talking. But the State of the Union was tonight. But the real State of the Union come July, Q3, quarter three, is going to be a much more important determination as to whether or not Republicans take or keep control of the House and win the midterms, because then we'll have a better sense of how the big, beautiful bill and all of the no tax on tips and everything else is coming to fruition. The tariffs will start to settle themselves out. We'll have a better sense of that as well. At that point, that's the real State of the Union. This is the precursor to the real one coming soon to, as they like to say, Kelly, a theater near you.
Your final thoughts, Kelly?
Well, Dan, getting back to answer your question as well that you gave to David, it's like Cuba Gooding Jr. saying, "Show me the money."
Yeah, yeah.
And that's exactly where the American people are. Show me the money. We've got this $18 billion, $18 trillion coming to the country. Where's the money? Where's the beef? That's what many Americans are asking. And the president, long-term gain for the American people, knows that tariffs take a while to matriculate and actually put it into your hands. So I would say David's right in his timeline. By July, we should see some things. And even when people start getting those first refund checks from the IRS, they'll be able to see that. That might buoy the confidence in the American people so that they begin to say, oh, there's something happening here. My income return is much larger than I ever anticipated. And that may actually bring some confidence with the American people. The other thing I want to go back to is Abigail Spanberger talking about George Washington's farewell address and that final statement. I think is indicative, and she's not playing fair either, because if she's really going to follow George Washington's address, she talked about that he was looking out for making sure that cunning men would not come into office. That was a dig against the president. I take exception to that because I think if you're going to talk about George Washington, you got to be fair. George Washington's key themes in his farewell address was national unity, breaking up political factions, developing a good foreign policy for foreign relations, and also having civic virtue. So any of the people out there today running for office, if they could go back to George Washington and study that. We also heard the President of the United States talk about on July 4th in 1826 that Thomas Jefferson was dying. If I remember that correctly, that's what he was saying. Well, at the same time, John Adams was dying the same day. These are two men who were opposed to each other, and yet they came together to bid each of their friends a final farewell, letting each of their friends know that they cared about them, they cared about this nation. That's what we have to become as a people. Whether we're white, black, brown, yellow, whatever, we have to come together. If we're liberal, Democrat, independent, whatever, we have to learn how to come together. That is what the vision that George Washington had. That is not what Abigail Spanberger just talked about. She said it, but then she left it on the floor by not lifting it up, saying, hey, we got to reach out to the president. The president has to reach out to us. We have to come together. That is what disturbs so many people in the country. The fact that the president and the Democrats and the Republicans cannot see eye to eye for anything, like standing up saying, I'm for America first. And you have one side standing and the side sitting. That is appalling. And that is what many people in America are saying. Enough is enough. We have to pray that we do better, be better, become better, and stand up for exactly what Washington talked about: national unity, stopping political factions, the divisive nature of political parties, and dealing with foreign relations, advising against forming permanent allegiances or alliances with foreign nations, and civic virtue. That is so fundamentally sound. And oh, by the way, in God we trust. I'll end it with that.
Amen.
Amen. Great spot to leave it. CBN's David Brody, CBN's Kelly Wright. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. We've got another State of the Union in the books, and it was certainly an interesting one, as they always are. And so I appreciate you guys being here and breaking that down. Stay tuned to cbnnews.com for more. I'm sure you're going to see from David and Kelly in the coming days here on everything we saw tonight and what we're going to hear in the coming days in the aftermath of it. Just stay tuned to cbnnews.com. And you will get up to date on all of that. You can check me out on the Quick Start podcast tomorrow morning. We'll be there bright and early. We're there every weekday morning for you. Make sure you're subscribed to that as well. And lastly, but certainly not least, make sure if you enjoy this coverage, this news coverage from a Christian perspective here at CBN News, as we always do, consider becoming a partner with us and donating and helping us do this and be here with you each and every day, covering the news that's going on in God's world. So we appreciate you, gentlemen, David, Kelly.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again. And have a good night, everybody. We'll see you back here soon. God bless.